Aloha and welcome to Kupunaho, that is New Kupuna, a wordplay on Kapunaho. I'm Chris Yano, your host, and this is a talk story podcast by, for, and about us, the Punahou class of 69. It's a privilege to reach this age and realize, hey, we are the Kupuna now. What kinds of responsibilities do we take on in this position, and what kind of legacy might we as Kupunaho offer? It's difficult to disentangle the Karen Lau we knew during Punahou days, that is, track athlete, ROTC sponsor, to Karen's life since then, running her family business, Cindy's Lei Shoppe. In my mind, what ties the two Karens together is a certain forthrightness, a kind of maybe tough confidence that most of us have gone down to her shop in Chinatown whenever we needed Lei, and there she was, emerging briskly from the back of the shop, friendly, businesslike, so knowledgeable. And it's wonderful to have a Punahou classmate enmeshed in the operation of an everyday business that represents the past, present, and hopefully the future of Hawaii. So welcome, Karen.
Thank you. Wow, what an introduction. Thank you so much.
And Karen, for starters, I wonder if you could tell us what it was like growing up in Chinatown. We talked to other Punahou classmates who grew up, for example, in Waikiki on the beach, described their childhoods as idyllic, play, play, play. Your childhood may have been different in Chinatown. So can you say something about your childhood?
I used to be embarrassed about telling people that I had an address on Maunakea Street. On the other side of that, I got to see a totally different world, and there were all kinds of people, Chinese, but you also had the Hawaiians, the Filipinos, the Portuguese. My mother being Chinese and not speaking a word of English. I credit her so much with planting us there and being exposed to all the different varieties of people, the Filipino food, the Hawaiian food, the grill around the corner. I was like the little girl the Chinese girl, oh, go ask that girl, she'll do it for you. And then they would give me like a dime or a nickel. I thought it was just so fun to help these people. I learned to be highly scheduled because my parents were like, no nonsense, get the job done, be of service to people. And here we are now, we're still servicing people.
But it seems to me that part of your upbringing in Chinatown, kind of, being a bit scrappy, might have been the Karen that I saw at Punahou too.
I have to say, growing up in Chinatown toughened me, if you want to say that. I was, we raised ourselves there. I mean, my parents were so busy and I really feel like for my mother, she put the geography of Lei there. I think in the very beginning, there were only like 2 or 3 places that sold Leis there. Yeah. Huh. And all of a sudden, one stand opened, another stand opened. And actually, it was my grandmother, but the Lei stand concept.
Yeah.
It was just a little corridor, and you brought out a rack, and it was a wooden rack with nails, and you hung the Leis. If you look at old pictures, that's what you see, because we couldn't store Leis in refrigerators, and there would be probably like a bucket, and you just dip your Leis whenever you felt the Leis were dry to the touch. Huh. And across the street was the post office. You had like maybe a bookkeeper's office, maybe like 3 or 4 chop suey houses. I don't think there was even that many produce places there at the time because of refrigeration.
Yeah.
Right. It's it's so different now.
Right.
But my memories of Chinatown they're huge. Looking back now, I feel very fortunate. It was a good time. And I always felt pretty safe. I mean, I was 8, 9 years old, running back and forth around the corner. I never felt scared. It's a different time now.
Mm-hmm. So you had your own kind of idyllic childhood in some ways. What was your role at the Lei stand? Did you have specific duties you had to do?
I did everything. I swept the floor, wet the Leis, string Leis. Actually, the very beginnings of that street where we are, it was a barbershop. Oh. And my grandfather was in the front there. And then my grandmother and her 2 daughters were in the back doing corsages, maybe a couple leis, simple leis. There used to be a dance halls around the corner, and they used to sell flowers outside of these dance halls. And there were like a lot of sailors or like locals that would go up there dancing. And my auntie used to stand outside there and say, "Would you like to buy a flower for the pretty lady upstairs?" Those sold a lot. And eventually the barbershop kind of faded in the back, and then the flowers kind of moved into the front.
Yeah.
The rest is history.
Now, when you were growing up, what were the most popular flowers?
Plumeria, mini carnation, crown flower, tuberose, just a little of each. It wasn't, not the big variety.
So tell me what it was like for you coming into a school like Punahou. What was your reaction? Or whose idea was it, first of all?
Oh my God! I'm grateful to my parents because they always wanted me to go to private school. I don't know why, but I went to Island Paradise in the beginning, and then 5th to 7th grade I went to Sacred Hearts. At the 7th grade, my father had this. I don't know. He was like a football person, and maybe he was inspired by Charlie Wiedemeyer, who was like huge football presence at that time. And he said, "Let's try Punahou." And I kind of cried about that one for a while. I just didn't think that was the school to go to for me. I thought it was more cool to go public. But anyway, that was my father's idea. And it was a real tough adjustment, I must admit. And especially you're trying to figure yourself out, figure them out. And I was rubbing shoulders with people who their parents were doctors, lawyers, CPAs, kids that were like well-traveled, took ballet lessons, took tennis lessons, went surfing, all these things that I never was in touch with, But by the same token, just meeting new kinds of people. I was just fascinated by also the level of teachers there. I mean, I thought I was just around such genius, such brilliance. It was very cool from that standpoint. Yeah.
So let's see. After Punahou, then, where were you living after graduating from high school?
I went to Scripps in Claremont, and that was great. I went to school sight unseen, just dropped off LAX, and I went, "Oh, how do I get to Claremont now?" My parents didn't tell me about that one, right? But luckily, I figured it out. It was called the Greyhound.
Yeah, right.
And then after I graduated from Scripps, I kind of stayed at home for a bit, working at the store. And I met a young man who said, "Hey, let's go to Maui." And I went, "Okay," thinking, okay, I can get away from my parents, get away from whatever, figure out what I want to do. And I lived in Maui, and I thought I was only going to be there for a year. And that turned out to be 10 years. Doing a little bit of yoga, meditation, a lot of running. I mean, that was so not my life prior to that.
Yeah.
And it was a good time. I would go home every year during graduation season.
Right.
And I would get off that airplane, go straight to the store, drop my bags, and I would just go at it. Whether it be stringing leis, waiting on customers, answering the phone, writing invoices, whatever. So that was like an intense 2 weeks. And then my father would ask me every year, "When are you going to come home?" And I thought, okay, I guess I need to find new running territory. So I came home and started going at it.
Right. Of course, going at it was very familiar to you. But what did it feel like this time, knowing that this might be for good?
I don't know where that trigger happened, actually. All of a sudden, it was 1 year, then 2 years, and 3 years, and then I had a son, my first son.
Yeah.
And that kind of got my feet more planted into the store. And just things kind of fell into place. And then a year and about almost 2 years later, I had my second son. And I went, okay, this is for good. And it was okay. I had a lot of support. I had a lot of support. And I just found how great it was. I thought, wow, this Lei thing, just so cool, very cool. And I became a better listener to people's stories.
Interesting.
Yeah. People would come and tell me, "Oh, I need a Lei for this." And then all of a sudden, the 1 minute became 5 minutes, and it helped me to become a better business person for addressing their needs, helping them. And I became just better and better at it.
So Lei became kind of your entry point to their stories.
We're in everybody's stories.
Yeah.
And it's to this day, I want to keep that legacy where we are in everybody's stories.
Yeah. Tell me something about your relationship to Lei, whether as, I don't know, flower or plant material or the business.
I think it's great. When I put a lei on somebody, I feel like I trigger a memory for them. It's like my heart, the lei goes on the heart. And I gifted. And something came back to me, like just that instant moment of joy, gratitude. The lei is a connector. It connects one person to another person. It connects you to, wow, remember? I mean, all these memories and your story or someone else's story. I mean, like, and that's what the lei means to me.
Yeah.
And it gives you geography. Lei is Hawaii, only Hawaii. You know, you could get a lei from Tahiti or Bali or something or the Philippines, but it's not quite like getting a lei from Hawaii.
Now, what about my understanding about the lei industry is that a lot of the flowers these days come from Southeast Asia. Is that right?
That's another thing. The lei growing used to be multi-generational. Your grandmother, your auntie, your cousin, your neighbor, they'd all sit on a table counting the flowers, manicuring or stringing. Before, it was like people used to come to my mother and they would get off the bus and bring out 2 packages and say, "Oh, Popo, Amu, you want to buy?" And my mother would say, "Okay." And my mom was an okay person. She said yes to everybody. He used to drive us crazy as kids. My mom was very blessed. She was there at the time that the lei industry was allowed to grow. It wasn't even an industry. It was more like the lei stands. And now I think we are finally getting that recognition as an industry. I want to give that credit to my mother. Now that it's a little different, we have to fight for flowers now because of the local shortages. Thailand in particular, the vendors started coming around and we would say, no, because we so badly wanted to support local. And when the Vanda orchids started disappearing from Hilo, because those used to come from Hilo, we just started saying yes. And we were so impressed with the quality, the price, the hunger of this country that wanted to import and establish business.
Entering the lei market through their flowers. And through maybe orchids in particular?
Orchids in particular. That's when I've gone to Thailand. I went there 3 times and that's all you see. And I mean, like, wow, you see it in hotels everywhere. They're everywhere. Beautiful ones.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, in your mind, how much does it matter? I mean, if you say you value lei, does it matter where the flowers come from?
Yes, we try to support local. We try to grow local. I think the locals right now the local flowers are Ohai, Pikake, Pakalana, Maile, sea grapes, he'e, ginger. But it's not enough. It's just not enough. And so Thailand has really kind of like taken a huge leap and faith in the state of Hawaii, and hats off to them.
And I'm going to ask you a really stupid question, and you can say, I don't know, but what is your favorite lei?
You know what? I love plumeria. I love ginger. Plumeria and ginger.
Really? Okay.
The old-fashioned classic.
Yeah. So in your mind, there is a future for lei.
Yes. There's got to be some kind of mastermind plan because it takes so long to grow. Right. You know what I thought I had was like, we should have like some kind of like a program where everybody gets like a lima. Everybody, say you get like 200 houses and you give them a lima plant for free. And maybe 5 of them will take off and start something, start this momentum. And it's got to be grassroots, I think, because how is it that if we have the climate that we can't grow more?
Right.
And I can't tell you how many people I meet that say, I really regret knocking down my plumeria tree.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that's crazy. I got to go buy plumeria.
Yeah.
You know, when they had that chance to have their own plumeria tree, you know, I'm
And local attitude, too much rubbish, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Now, Karen, of course, we're all in our 70s now. We're what might be called kupuna. For you, yourself, as a kupuna, I'll call us that. What would you like your personal legacy to be?
String a lei.
String a lei.
Everybody should have a lei needle in their kitchen drawer.
Yeah.
Make a lei.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you only made it once or twice, the idea is that you knew the hardship of the craft. You appreciate that tactile needle string pull down so that you can appreciate a very special lei because you did one yourself. Everybody should know how to make one lei, even if it's a simple lei.
Mm-hmm.
Just the tactile part of it, I think, strengthens your memory of the lei value.
Mm-hmm.
What the lei means.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's a beautiful sentiment. That's also practical. But in getting lei into our bodies in that way, by stringing it yourself, maybe by growing the flowers, if you have the space.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's a wonderful gift. So thank you. And we'll try to help make that legacy come true and plant flowering plants and try to string lei. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Chris. Aloha.
Mahalo for listening. This has been Ku Punaho, a talk story podcast by, for, and about us, the Punaho class of 69. I'm your host, Cristiano, with production help from Carlene Tani and Sue Au Doyle. I hope that listening to these interviews might prompt each of us to reflect on those pivotal experiences and insights that make up our own lives and to share them with families and friends. This is our responsibility, our ongoing legacy. So until next time, ahui ho.